Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. The Conservative Party supports these regulations to extend the Iran sanctions regime to drones and drone technology, as well as financial services, funds, brokering services relating to other items of strategic concern. But these sanctions seek to address issues emblematic of a far larger threat. The government should be in no doubt Iran's malign influence is one of the biggest challenges to both global and British security. Iran has for decades deliberately undermined the rules-based international order, destabilising their neighbourhood and funding terrorism globally, all while brutally repressing its own people and committing a femicide. For years, the Iranian regime has created asymmetric threats, co-opted existing movements and provided weapons, money and training to its proxies and ideological partners, be it Hamas in Gaza, Hezbollah in Lebanon, the Houthis in Yemen, or Shia militias and the popular mobilisation forces across Iraq and Syria. Terrorist organisations who have no interest in those of their local people and who instead pursue the aims of the Ayatollah. Hostage captors and committers of the worst atrocity against the Jewish people since the Holocaust. Actors disrupting maritime traffic in the Red Sea, a sea lane absolutely vital for delivery of food and fertiliser to countries facing serious hunger crises in East Africa and South Asia. Now, Iran, as my honourable friend set out, is embedding itself in conflict on our own continent, transferring hundreds of attack drones and, as we now know, ballistic missiles to Russia to prop up its barbaric and illegal, unprovoked, renewed invasion of Ukraine. They are fuelling a war machine which seeks to dismantle a sovereign democratic state in Europe and enabling the murder of Ukrainians every single day. The government must now allow Ukraine's use of long-range weaponry on strategic targets. Escalation warrants a response, or further deterrence will be undermined, and the invasion of Ukraine is an attack on us all. Iran is that hand in glove for Russia with the perpetrators. Here at home, there have been numerous Iranian plots to assassinate British or UK-based individuals who the regime considers their enemies. The UK has had to respond to more than 15 of these since 2022. We have seen Iranian cutouts investigated for spreading IRGC propaganda and glorifying sanctioned individuals and terrorists. We have seen IRGC generals providing radicalising lectures here in our capital city. And even on our streets, we have seen people glorifying organisations such as the Houthis and others, who are not acting in defence of Gaza. They are not progressive movements, they are terrorists. Iran has also arbitrarily detained and imprisoned British citizens, including Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, whose shocking ordeal proves beyond doubt Iran's disdain for human rights and human dignity. As the Conservative government demonstrated, you can take a muscular approach. We introduced the extensive sanctions regime to disrupt Iran's hostile behaviour, targeting its decision-makers along with those who did their bidding. We imposed measures to help choke off the funding flows from Iran to Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, as well as sanctions on Iran's drone programme. Indeed, 400 sanctions were in place on Iran by the time we left office, and in 2023 alone we made 154 new designations. Alongside the US and with support from allies, we carried out strikes against the Houthis in Yemen to degrade their capabilities, aiding and supporting allies across the world. British military personnel and equipment helped defend Israel from Iranian attack in April, and we told the regime in Tehran in no uncertain terms that it must rein in its proxies. When the government proposes measures to counter Iran's appalling behaviour like those regulations before the House today, we will support them. But we will also be very clear that the government needs to maintain the pressure and look at the bigger picture in equal measure to respond to the ever-growing threat. And that takes me, Madam Deputy Speaker, to the strategy that we are pursuing. We must stop compartmentalising our response and our approach to Iran. We need to work out how we are going to measure success when it comes from reducing the threat of Iran to our people and our interests, and the government must do this work. Iran does not currently pursue active and direct confrontation with us, but their threshold for chaos is too high, and we must work out how we reduce that threat. Iran will continue to do as it sees fit. Its priority is the survival of the regime, and it has strategic patience. But we need to shape a strategy not in response to Iran, but in the pursuit of our ambitions, protecting our people and our interests. And we cannot, unfortunately, rely on the USA to lead. We need a new Euro-Atlantic focus on this, but the UK must decide what for us is our priorities. We must also be prepared because there are fractures within the regime. We must recognise that whilst Iran rarely changes its behaviour, it does have a cycle of boom and bust, and we must be prepared for what may fall out. So I urge the Minister today to take that opportunity to restructure, and I recognise that he's the Minister for Sanctions rather than Middle East and North Africa, but I know he will take these words back. It is time for us to rethink our strategy on Iran, moving from reactive to proactive. We need to see long-term thinking also on how we restore state control over areas abused by Iranian-backed non-state actors. This includes the implementation of UN Resolution 1701 and the removal of Hezbollah military positions from southern Lebanon, with the Lebanese military being able to reassert sovereign control. We also need to see a strategic approach to the Houthis which prioritises the restoration of proper governance in Yemen, including payment of public servants and protections against Houthi embezzlement of public funds. Domestically, we must bolster our resilience and protect our society from corrosive Iranian influence and transnational repression, which is extensive. The National Security Act should be implemented in full as quickly as possible, including the register of foreign lobbyists, which shamefully the government has currently delayed, and I urge them to put it in place as soon as possible. There is no reason for it not to be to proceed at speed. Internationally, we must work with our partners to contain the looming threat of a nuclear Iran. The JCPOA needs revisiting, and there is no perfect deal, but the current situation is untenable. The JCPOA is on life support. We need that new Euro-Atlantic approach that I mentioned, and Anthony Blinken's comment that Iran's nuclear breakout time is now 1 to 2 weeks should concern us all. They are a nuclear threshold state. We have the agency to disrupt Iran's malign plans and to lead the international community in doing so if we have the courage to act and are prepared to develop a harder edge. And the time to act must be now. Madam Deputy Speaker, to conclude, I would be grateful if the Minister could answer the following questions. When will the government prescribe the IRGC? Because that was a promise made when they were in opposition, and promises matter. Secondly, will he work with allies to ensure these sanctions are international and ensure their effectiveness in curbing Iranian drone development exports? Individual sanctions programmes do not work. They must be done within a multilateral basis. Will he also work to ensure that OFSI is pursuing penalties against those who breach sanctions? Because we have not seen any pursued on where we have seen breaches of sanctions around Russia, and we must see them here in both Iran and Russia. Does he agree that in addition to sanctions, we must also buttress Ukraine's military capability requirements so they can take down Iranian drones in the skies and match the weapon range of Russia's armed forces? And that means the use of Storm Shadow missiles. Finally, with proxies like Hezbollah being degraded, will he commit to working towards freeing captured societies from Iranian influence and helping states such as Lebanon reassert their independence and state effectiveness? And will he assert in clear terms that the government condemns all Iranian proxies and will assist good faith actors in resisting their proliferation, political entrenchment, military expansion, and pursue a new UK coherent strategy to protect our people, our country and our interests from an increasingly belligerent Iran? The government's message to Iran at all times must be that their threshold for chaos is too high. They must step back, and their current approach is not working. But that starts with us recognising that we can be in the driving seat and stop reacting to Iran. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker.